Hey, friends, welcome back to the Be the Bigger Person podcast. I'm Melissa, your faith filled friend and grieving daughter who waited until my 30s for love. And through all of this and then some, learned a lot about growing in the Lord and being the bigger person. From grief to singleness to marriage to friendships and all the faith in between, let's have the honest and vulnerable conversations you've been looking for. Before we jump into what is, I know, going to be a fantastic conversation, if something during this episode sticks out to you or makes you go, ooh, yes, take a screenshot of the episode and share it with your people and be sure to tag at Be the Bigger Person Pod. Okay, so let's jump right in. On this episode, you may notice I have a friend with me and actually a familiar face to the pod. She has been on 3 other episodes. Episode 60, where me and her and our other friend Miriam basically just had like a couch chat, would you call it?
Yeah.
And some wine. Um, and she was also on episodes 7 and 6. I can't say them in reverse because of kids these days. So I would encourage you to go back and listen to those episodes after you listen to this episode. But without further ado, let me introduce Leah. Womp, womp, womp.
Yes.
Leah, I'm so happy to have you on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I told you this, but I'm going to tell everyone else so that they know. I started recording this episode as a solo episode and just it didn't feel right. I wasn't excited about doing it by myself. And I said to Ivan, Ivan, I don't know what to do. I literally this is the most womp womp of an episode right now. And he said, with literally without skipping a beat, he was like, get Leah on to talk about it. I was like, duh, duh. So that's what we're doing. So this episode is basically all about singleness when maybe all of your other friends are not single and when you maybe sometimes would rather not be single. And so yeah, Leah, give the people I always love saying that because I just feel so cool. Anyways, give like a brief where are you at in life? You live in New York, which is fantastic, but like where are you at in life? What makes you qualified to talk on this?
Well, I'm single, so that's what makes me
Or if
qualified.
you know anybody.
Yeah, if you know anybody, hook a sister up. So I'm 36 and like you said, I live in New York. I live on Long Island, but I work in Manhattan. And I have a great job. And I have been in the position that I'm in for a few years, but have been working at this place for quite some time since 2012, and I think,
That's not a boss, babe. She's like the director.
I'm not the director, but,
She's the boss, babe. She's like, I worked at this place. She's the boss. No, she's not the boss, but she's a boss.
I'm a boss of a team. Yeah, but it's definitely been a really good career, and I bring that up to say that I don't know if I thought I would have, like, a significant career. I knew I'd have to work, like, I'm not rich. Let's be clear about this. I
Not
knew I
me.
have to work. But I always assumed that I would, work and then get married and have kids, and then maybe, once I had children, possibly have to work, part-time because I'd have to focus on having kids. And, and obviously that would depend or have some sort of a job that was pretty flexible that I could
Yeah.
do things. And so yeah, so I that has not been my story. I've been able to have a pretty good career where I didn't have to, pause to have children or do anything like that. But um it's definitely not something that I expected. It's not necessarily, um, I'm happy about it, but it's just not something that I expected considering what I did expect was to be married and have children pretty early on, like in my mid to late 20s. And yeah, so that's sort of where I thought my life would go and kind of where it is now. I have a lot of friends. I spend a lot of time with those friends. I go to a lot of weddings. I'm going to a wedding this weekend actually. So I definitely do a lot of activities with a lot of different people at a lot of different life
Yeah,
stages.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah,
So, one of the reasons why I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, and like, it's funny. We obviously, I feel like for a very long time, we're like, we're old and we're single. And so obviously, I very much also have a passion. Something that has been very important to me is that even now that I'm married, is not forgetting what it was like to be single because I don't ever want anything that I do or say or experience to be like, wow, I'm basically doing the things that I hated when I was
yeah,
single. And so I try very, very hard, but I also recognize that I'm in a different phase of life. So I'm very excited to talk to you. And just obviously, you're also just a very honest person. And I feel like this is a type of conversation we've had 1,000 times.
mm,
Um, like at 3 in the morning, just being like, "Meh." But I think something that also we talked about before we started recording is that there's this balance of like being hopeful for what you want and where you hope to go
mhm,
in relationship status, in life status, but also really like being present where you currently are. So I just kind of want to start there. I know that's like a big doozy to start with, but like, how do you, on like a day-to-day basis, a weekly basis? I know obviously it probably changes seasonally, weekly, you
yeah.
never know. But just
Mhm.
like what does that look like for you to be like, okay, I can hope for this, but also be present where I currently am?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at the end of the day, like you have to live your life, right? So you can't um just be waiting for things to happen to you. I
Mhm.
think as women and women in faith communities, oftentimes that's the narrative we get
Mhm.
told, right? That you just gotta wait for this and that this is the
Mhm.
most important thing and whatever. And I don't agree with that. I don't I don't agree with just sitting around and waiting for your life to begin. Um and as important as and sanctifying as marriage is, I think it's one of many things in your life that you will do that is part of your calling, that's sanctifying, that's will help you to grow, all of that. So I think it's about maintaining a perspective
Mhm.
where you can you know trust that God has it in hand and
Mhm.
also be faithful with what he's given you to do at
Yeah.
that moment, right? So like I mentioned before with work, I mean, that's not my whole life, but it is a significant part of my life. And
Yeah.
I really want to be like, okay, I want to be faithful in what I'm doing. I want to be thoughtful about
Mhm.
my team and our projects and all of that stuff. Um, because that's what I've been called to do in this moment.
Yeah.
Um, and so, you know, if I were just lamenting being single and then like I wouldn't be able to focus on what God has for me
Mhm.
currently. So I think that's sort of how I would look at it. Um, and then also thinking about the ways that I am growing right now and thinking about when, if and when, I mean, I hope it's a when, but it also might
Say
be an
when. Just bring it in, Lord.
right. But also like, wanting to be realistic about things like how can I, where are the places that I need to grow? What is God
Sure.
showing me in this current season
Mm,
that's helping me grow? And I've seen a lot of that in my
yeah.
life.
So let me ask you a question, which you touched on two things that kind of are in the same vein of like things that people say to people that are single. I
Mhm.
want to bring up two specific examples, two things that you kind of touched on. And obviously recognizing that some people say these things because they're just sort of regurgitating what they've heard. Some people are saying these because they genuinely are like trying to love you well and care for you well as somebody that they care about. So, two things that I would love to get your thoughts on. I'll tell you them both and you can take them in whatever order.
Mhm.
The first is one you just mentioned, which is like when somebody is single for a long time, it's because they have things to work on. The other one is similar, which is like that if you are not married yet, that it's because you should focus on the things you wanna grow in. I guess they're kind of the same in a way, but I'm just curious on, like, whether it be that one or other ones you've heard, kind of what are your thoughts, and how do you also, like, encourage? Because I feel like some people could just go really sassy with it, um, with replies. What are your thoughts on those, and, like, how would you reply to somebody that says that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think 2 things. The first is there are safe people and unsafe people.
Mm,
So so
correct.
people who are, like, gonna be chaotic, I'm just like, "Okay, thanks for that, bye, see you later." Like, I'm just not gonna engage, honestly, because I know you're not trying to have a thoughtful, honest, caring, edifying conversation, so I'm not even gonna try to go down that road.
Sure.
But for people who, I have relationships with and who I know have my best interests at heart,
Mhm.
if people say something like that to me, I would say, well, you want to give me an example? Because honestly,
Mhm.
to make people, if you're going to say something, like say it with your chest, and then
Yeah,
let's have a conversation about it. Because
right.
maybe it's real. Maybe it is like, oh, okay, that's a blind spot that I have that I didn't know about. Or maybe
Mm,
they're just, like you said, saying a trope and then they're like, "Oh, I don't know, I just been thinking whatever," right? So, I always wanna keep people accountable to the things that they're saying to me.
yeah.
I think that's a big thing. I think the other thing too is, generally speaking, like, marriage is not a finish line, so
Mm.
I think there's this
Speak on that, girl.
yeah, like, there's this idea that, "Oh, if I collect all of these traits and do all of these things, then God will send me a husband." Like,
Mhm.
and I can tell you I know that that's not true because I know people who have gotten married when they're, like, 20 or whatever, and they're like, "We had to grow together. We had to learn so much." So that's not there's no formula. So to try to create one, and again, I brought it up a little earlier with, like, obviously we're in a Messianic synagogues, but the church, like, capital C church kind of thing, or, like, the Christian world, Messianic, whatever. There's this idea that um, if I it's like a math equation. If I do X, then Y will happen. And that's just life is literally not like that.
Yeah.
You might think all sorts of things could happen and none of those things happen or something totally different happens. What I'm trying to say is that life is not a formula.
Yeah.
And when people say things like that, I'm like, well, was that I also can sometimes ask, "Well, was that your experience? Did you feel like
Mm.
you were totally the person you were supposed to be when you got married?" No, you're not, because marriage is a fire. So,
Girl.
you know.
That's the thing that cracks me up sometimes because I remember, like, and do not get me wrong, I adore my husband. I think he's amazing. Marriage, with him has been lovely and challenging, and he would say the same. But I always think it's funny because I think back to myself, like, younger years, and I think, like, "Oh, if I could just get married, life would be so much easier." And actually, marriage brings so many more challenges
Yeah.
because you're not doing life for yourself anymore
Yeah.
at all.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, to all those people that think, like, if you can get married, you will have made it. Oh, sweetheart.
Yeah. No, it's true, it's
Anyways,
true.
yeah.
And I think again, to me, I think when someone says something that is a canned response,
Mm,
I'm always thinking again, do I have a relationship with this person that
yeah,
I want to preserve? Most of the time, the answer is yes.
yeah.
And so then I want to engage and be like, let's think about this. Let's be a little bit more thoughtful.
Mm.
And then other people, I'm like, okay, thanks for your input. See you never.
What is the most this is where I need sassy Leah to come out a little bit. What is the most, like, unhinged thing that somebody has said to you about you being single? Or, like, in directly related to the fact that you're not in a relationship or married?
That's a great question. I think I would say two things. I think the first is, well, maybe actually, that's kind of the same thing. It's basically like, "Oh, do you not want to get married?" And I'm like, "Ma'am, this is a Walmart."
Ma'am. No.
No, but I'm always like, why would that be your first assumption? Like, I'm not sure why you started there. Like, so I think again, nothing like wild, and that's not like a
Yeah.
crazy thing, but I think it's just interesting that people start there, and I'm like,
Yeah, like, "Oh, this person's not married, they're of a certain age, therefore they must not want it."
right, like they're choosing this, and
Yeah.
listen,
Some people do.
some people do, more power to them, no
Hey,
shade.
no.
Live your best life. Um, but that has always been an interesting thing, and I'm like, am I giving off a vibe that I'm not
Then I don't want this?
that I don't want this? So because I've had more than one person say that to me, now what I've been telling everybody who I know, who I care about, who cares about me, not like
Yeah,
randos,
not just
but
randos and CVS.
right. But I've been like, look, you know somebody, hook me up, set me up. I will go on at least one blind date. Like,
She's looking.
like set me up. I've been saying that to a lot of people so that now everybody is like, oh, okay,
Mm.
okay, I'm on it.
Before we go any further, let's talk about something special. In case you didn't know, my brother Josh has Down syndrome, and I'm always, literally always, looking for a way to share about him, about Down syndrome, and about our life as a Down syndrome family with others. Throughout my years as an elementary and special education teacher, I was kind of unfortunately surprised by how few books there were that both taught kids about Down syndrome in a way that was age appropriate and not just a science textbook, with also having an engaging story that featured someone with Down syndrome as the main character. So I decided to fill that gap and write a book of my own using my master's degree in special education and my 30 plus years as a Down syndrome sister. The ups and downs of a very special superhero shares with kids and really readers of all ages what Down syndrome is, what characteristics people with Down syndrome often possess, what life with someone who has Down syndrome looks like, and how they can be superheroes too through speaking up for what's right. This book will prompt your kids to ask questions and will give you the answers to guide the conversations and will empower you and your kids to be leaders for change and for kindness in the disability space. Because the more you understand, the better you will be. And what better way to do that than through storytelling that represents more inclusive characters and families? To get a copy for your family, your classroom, or your friends, head to Special Ups and Downs. That's special UPS and downs.com or use the link below in my episode notes. Now, back to our episode.
Do
Um,
you also find, because obviously I think both of us I can speak to, um, have the blessing and the curse of sort of being the, like, strong, intimidating woman.
mm,
Are there things that you notice or things that you find yourself, like, almost needing to be super cognizant of within yourself in the way that you carry yourself so that you don't come across to some not and again, I know, I think a strong woman, a woman who someone else might find intimidating, I think that's a them problem, the intimidation piece, but I think sometimes too, it can come across like, "Whoa, is this person not open? Oh my gosh."
yeah.
So, are there things that is that something that you think about? Is that something that you are like, "Whatever about?" What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I
'Cause you
think
are, you're a boss babe.
okay. Tell me you're a millennial without telling me.
Yeah, that's I
Like,
am. I am a millennial. Hi, it's me.
same. We are like firmly millennials.
We are
Uh,
right there in the core of millennials.
right in the center. Um, that's a good question. I'm not sure if people necessarily find me intimidating so much as people don't see me as like a romantic
Mm,
interest. So more of like oh, like really good friend or like nurturing kind of almost mom figure,
Yeah.
like I think that's a thing that I feel like I've experienced more than like people being like, "Oh my gosh, like you're so
Mm,
intense." Because I don't think I'm like that intense. I don't think I'm that intense. I don't think people think that either. But I think it's more they're not they're just people are not thinking about me in a like romantic way either for themselves or even or for
mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, I should set you up with so and so."
So how do you navigate that? Because I'm sure there's other people that are listening that they feel the same way. They're like, "Yeah, I walk through that all the time."
Yeah. So again, and then this is pretty recent, like within the last year, have been like, set me up. Everybody set me up. Figure this out. I'm gonna need y'all to get in a meeting, whatever, have an agenda and
Number 1 thing on the agenda, set Leah up.
yeah, and I'm like, set me up, pray for me, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
So I've been saying it more because I think for me, I was feeling I've always felt, "Oh no, I don't wanna say anything about who I like
Mm,
or whatever," and like kept it close to the chest and I was like, "That's not working." So
Yeah.
I'm hoping this will help. I mean, I've gone on well, I was set up with somebody, but then it didn't really work out. And then talked to somebody else for a really long time, and then I did go on another date recently that also was not great. But you gotta just keep trying. You gotta like
Yeah. Yeah, so talk about that, like, managing expectations, managing hope, managing, like, just sort of keeping on going, and obviously, that all of that within yourself, but also, like, all of that with the Lord, because obviously, we who walk in faith know that, we hear verses 2 are better than 1 and, things like that, right? So we recognize that the Lord designed marriage and we trust in him for those things and not just marriage, obviously everything in life, but specifically talking here about relationships and marriage.
Mhm,
So how do you navigate managing expectations, managing hope, managing frustrations and doubt
mhm.
within yourself and also obviously with the Lord?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's like anything else, honestly, in my life of things that I'm hoping for that are not yet. It's just there's hills and valleys and plains, right? So there are moments when you're like, this is going to happen. I feel so excited. I feel so ready to jump in, ready to do this thing. And other times you're like, oh my gosh, I hate everything. And then other times when you're just sort of like doing your day to day and I don't think about it that often.
Yeah.
So it's a roller coaster in some sense, but it's not it's not unique in the sense that that's the only thing in my life that I have. Like there are other things and I'm like, "Oh, Lord, I'm praying for this. Like can you, work in this situation or
Yeah.
whatever." And I say that also as a encouragement to myself and also the other single people of not making it the sole focus of your whole life, making it
Yeah.
your whole personality because then it will overtake you. I have had moments like that where I'm like, this is all I'm thinking about now,
Mm.
and I actually think it is close to becoming an idol, you know,
Oof.
and that's tough because
So when you recognize that you're like, "Oh, I think I'm close to making this an idol," what do you do?
um
What are the telltale signs?
yeah, you again like I think if I'm that's the, like when I'm praying.
Mm.
That's the only thing I'm praying about. I'm not praying for other people. I'm not praying for, peace and country. I'm only praying about me is what's happening,
Yeah.
right? So so then I'm like, okay, this might have gone off the deep end. And I'm gonna need to pull it back.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of where I'm at and trying to not even though it is absolutely a desire of mine, trying not
Mm,
to center it in a way that takes the focus off of other things. And the other thing I will say too is also to like practice gratitude and to
mm,
be like the other day when I was kind of in this place, I was like, you know what, Lord, I'm so grateful for my family. I'm so grateful for my friends. I'm so grateful for the life you've given me. I'm grateful for the safety that I have. Like I'm grateful for all this stuff that I know God has blessed me with.
mm,
Um, and I will also say it helps too with that, and this just generally helps with prayer, is to write stuff down because
yeah.
I will forget what I'm praying and whatever, and then I go back and I'm like, "Oh my god, I forgot that God really worked in that situation," and I was
Yeah.
like, "There's no way out. Uh-oh, I'm here. I live here in hell." And God was like, "Okay, relax. Like you're doing a lot right now, and this is too much. Let me pull it back." So yeah, those are some
Yeah.
things I would say: gratitude,
Okay.
not centering it too much, and also accepting that there's gonna be hills and valleys and plains. Yeah.
Okay. Also, because I do love that. And I think that's where it's so helpful for you to bring up these like practical examples because I feel like a lot of times when people talk about how to like make the most of your singleness, they're just like, well, and they sort of don't have anything that's like helpful, or they're things that are like almost like pre marriage. And you're like, no, gratitude or spending time with friends and family or, really being the best at your job or whatever are things that you can just do regardless. Like they're not things that are like preparing for marriage. Yeah, they are, but you're not doing them being like, I'm going to do this and prepare myself for marriage.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about it, but I would love for you to kind of unpack a little bit more about like, what are your thoughts on you mentioned friends and family. Like, what are your thoughts on like who to surround yourself, the community to build, why that's important in, I mean, really any season of life, but is in singleness, like, and like what that looks like specifically for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think so generally speaking with my friends, I try to be really intentional and try to show up to things. I'm not always great about time management. I got a lot I have a lot.
You mean like when you say that you're going to be there at like 2 o'clock and you're there at like 4 o'clock?
Yeah, and
Cool.
I'm like, "Oh, sorry. There was a lot
Fine.
going on."
It's fine. We love you regardless.
Well, thanks. But yeah, so that's the thing that's tough. But as far as intentionally spending time with people, with friends, with family, I think that, I want to try to meet people where they're at in the season of life that
Mm,
they're at. So, for example, I have friends with small kids and, it's not easy for them to spend time. So I'm like, I'm going to come to your house. I don't care about your kids running around. I love hanging out with your kids. They're adorable and crazy and they're the best. And I love children. So and I never want someone to feel like they can't spend time with me because they've got their kids and it's like a whole
mm,
thing and they've got to schlep them around or whatever.
sure.
And so that's really important. I have friends with older, it's like friends who got married younger, and have like kids who are teenagers.
Mm,
And so I, want to engage with them too. And so sometimes I'll be like, hey, like, if you want to come over, like we have friends who we were actually thinking about or talking about doing like a girls' day. So it was like it would be me and my mom and then my friend and her daughter. And then like
aw,
just like hanging out, right? Like doing a thing. And so making it so that it feels special,
yeah.
but also that I'm I'm not frustrated with their schedule or their life.
Yeah.
Or especially when they have little kids, if they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to cancel. I'm so sorry. The baby is sick." Okay. I'm so sorry the baby is sick. That's tough. Are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being really flexible with schedules because children are adorable, but they're also tiny tyrants,
Mm,
and they will
yeah.
take over your life and your time because that's what they're supposed to do, and that's totally normal, and that's the season of life that you're in. So I always want to be thoughtful about that. And then I think with friends who are married but maybe don't have children, I always want to try to, be friends with both spouses,
Mhm.
people, and not only hanging out with the wife, who's probably the one who's my original friend, and being, engaged with that too. And yeah, and I don't I think the thing for me is like I'm not like there are some people who are like who get so mad about their friends getting things that they want,
Mm,
right? And being like, I'm not gonna spend time with them because like that's just not my life.
yeah.
And I'm like, well, I think you're just a bad friend. I don't think it has anything to do with their life or your life or I think
Yeah. You
so
know, it's funny. Someone said to me literally just the other day, we were talking about a situation where somebody was blessed with an answer to prayer in something that somebody else is still praying for and still really desiring and struggling in. And the person I was talking to about this basically said, like, the person who received the answer to prayer didn't receive the answer to prayer that was taken away from the other person. So, like, for example, it's like somebody gets married and it's like, that wasn't supposed to be your husband and God gave him to the other person. And therefore you're gonna be like, "Ah, I can't believe they're married." Like,
yeah,
like, no, everyone is gonna have their own thing in their own time.
right. It's not you can't have a scarcity mindset. Because if you have a scarcity mindset, you will become extremely bitter
Mm,
and you will resent God, you will
mm,
resent your friends. And then when eventually something good happens to you, you probably won't recognize it or treat it well because you've just built up a resentment toward
yeah.
life.
Mhm.
This is not healthy for anybody.
No, no, not a single person. Yeah, that is really good. Now, how do you, here's the thing, and this is why I love that you are the one that I'm having this conversation with, because I think you do a really beautiful job of not like avoiding the fact that you desire a relationship and marriage, not denying that, not like slapping up toxic positivity on it, but you also do a really good job of living your life and like doing the things, going the places, you know what I mean? Like making the most of your time. And so I think you have a very viewpoint for people to learn from. So something I would love for you to talk on is like, how do you, or what would you recommend to people who are like, I have four really close girlfriends and they're all married. And whenever we all hang out with the spouses and whatever, I'm the ninth wheel. Like, how do you navigate those situations, that feeling?
Yeah, I literally have multiple groups of friends where that is exactly the case. um, yeah, I mean, I think again, kind of like what I was saying earlier about like safe people and unsafe people. I think if
Yeah.
they're your friends and if you've stayed friends with them this long and if they're good friends, they
Yeah.
won't treat you like the ninth wheel. Like actually, perfect example, I have a group of friends that I met through like working in other museums before the one that I'm in now. And we went, all three of them. So it was a group of us four. And the three of them, they're all married with children now. But as they were getting married, obviously we all went to the weddings. And then the last one who just got married, I want to say it was before COVID, maybe like 2019.
Mm,
And so um so I actually did spend time with my one of my friends and her husband, and I was like, I'm here, like, I just got, like, a random Airbnb that was literally a hole in the wall, and I'm like, "Where are you guys hanging out? Like, let's go get dinner," or whatever, and they were just great, like, I didn't feel like a third wheel, like, when we were on the dance floor, we were dancing together, like, the 3 of us,
I love
and
that.
it was great, and, like, we had a really lovely time, and part of that, like I was saying earlier, I've also gotten to know her husband, right, a little
yeah.
bit more, so it didn't feel like who's this rando hanging out with us? So
Right? Like, okay.
yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's a big thing. And then the other thing too is like I made a decision a long time ago to be, like I said, to be happy for my friends
Mm,
when they are blessed. Like I want to,
yeah.
you know, rejoice with those who rejoice, right? And mourn with those who
Amen.
mourn, right? Like, that's what a good friend does. And so I think that that's really important. And then, but also you have to be, I think, self-possessed enough
Mm.
to, um, bring your best self and to not feel, you might feel like a ninth wheel or third wheel or some useless wheel rolling down the road, like a tumbleweed, just like,
Please let me catch up. I'm here too.
exactly. Like you might feel like that, and that's a totally normal feeling, and it's
Yeah.
okay to have that feeling. But I think as an adult, you have to work through that feeling,
Mm.
right? So like our feelings are real, and you should not ignore them and pretend all this. Like you were saying, like
Yeah.
toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't play yourself. But but really work through them. Be like, why am I feeling this way? Are people treating me this way, or am I feeling this? Is this really a thing that's happening? Do I need to communicate a
Mm.
need that I haven't communicated so that I don't feel this way? And again, you work through the feeling. That's what being an adult is.
Ugh,
It's
hate
not
that.
easy,
Just kidding.
but you can do it with therapy and prayer.
Yeah, honestly, we are pro a good coffee date with a friend. We are pro therapy. We are pro prayer. All the above
Yes.
and everything in between.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I want to come back to that in a minute, but in the meantime, I want to ask you the question on your like best day where you're like, yeah, I'm single and it's great and I'm totally fine. What does that look like for you?
Hmm.
And like in your like processing emotions, mental, whatever, like what does it look like for you realistically on like a day where you're just like, I'm totally feeling fine about this whole thing?
Yeah.
And then what does it look like for you on a day where you're just like hating the fact that you are single?
Yeah. So I think the times when I am glad that I'm single, or I feel I'm like, I'm having a great day. Two places. The first is at the grocery store because I don't have to worry about anyone being like, I want this, I want. No. So that's a husband or children. And again, I don't want to sound like a crazy who's like, I don't need kids. I work with kids every day. I love,
So you love kids. I
I
know this.
really do. But I actually had thought about this. Eventually, when I do get married and have kids, I actually think I would be like, this is mom's quiet time. Please don't.
You do love the
I
groceries.
do. I don't know why. I love it. I just love getting all the things. It's great. I love Trader Joe's. That's my
I was
place.
just gonna say you and TJ's.
Maybe I'm married to Trader Joe's.
You and Joe, the trader.
Joe the Trader. I'm fine.
Anyway,
So that's one thing. And then the second place where I feel like that is when I'm traveling, like in an airport.
mm,
'Cause again, I'm like, we're here. I got my passport out. We're flying somewhere fun. Like I don't feel like I'm like I gotta like collect people or corral anybody, So those are the places where I'm like, this is not bad. And obviously when I get married and whenever I'll have different systems and it'll be fine.
yes. Or you'll just be like, babe, I'll see you in our seats.
Yeah. Right. And it's like mom's gonna go, and I'll see you guys a little bit later.
Yes,
Okay?
dad and kids, goodbye.
Mom's gonna run some errands.
In the airport.
Anyway, so that's that. And then I mean, I think the times when I feel, it's tough, it's sad, is usually around like big kind of events or
Mm.
things like that where you're like, it would be nice to have somebody here with me. And also, like sometimes if you're having just like a really hard day and you just need someone to like unwind with and be like, this was crazy. Am I crazy? And then they're like, no, you're not crazy. I'm like, I know, I'm not crazy. Right. So, like, sometimes would be helpful. Obviously, I have friends, I have a mom, I have a lot of people who I can work through that with. Um, but those are some of the moments. And like, I think even like I was saying with traveling, like I love to travel, but it would be nice to travel with a husband,
Mm.
around the world because I love to travel. It's super fun. And I think it'd be fun to experience that with somebody. So yeah, but like I said, mountains, valleys, plains.
Plains, plateaus. And I'm
Yeah.
let's just start naming geographical, whatever. You know what I mean? What are they
Exactly.
called?
Geographical features.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Um, Okay, here's where I want to end the episode and wrap this all up. And obviously, this is not like we're ending in 35 seconds. But what I want you to do is, would you please talk to those that are listening that are married, those that are listening that are in relationships, especially in the body believers? What do you think is really important to share for people to know, for people to remember? Because especially people that have been married for a long time don't remember what it's like to be single. Talk to that group of people.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know I've said that for all the questions that you've asked, but they've all been great questions.
So much.
um, I think two things. I think the first is communicate with your friends. So
Mm,
I say that because every friend is different. Some friends want to talk about being single, want to get set up, want to what all the things. Some friends are like, I don't need any of that. I don't need your help here, or whatever the case is, right? Really be a good friend, communicate with them about that particular issue. I think, and then the other thing is don't forget your friends, right?
mm,
Who are single. And I think that I have seen this time and again in multiple friend groups in the believing world, in the secular world, friends I've had who are not believers, where they get married and then they fall off the face of the earth, or they're only friends with other couples.
wow.
And then they act like we never had a conversation before, which is, I mean, I don't even understand what that is. Because honestly, for me, I'm like, well, like, I guess we just were never really friends, or at least good friends, which is what it is. It just feels very rude to me and very immature, frankly, to totally not spend time with another single person. And I know people have like, boundaries and stuff related to like, maybe not being with like this, like the opposite gender, like if you're not with your
Sure.
spouse, whatever. Okay, you figure out whatever you need to figure out there, but I also, but that doesn't mean that you totally ignore the people who
Right.
you know, and even doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
besties. It's just people who you know
Right.
because
It's
they're
it's
not
it's
a couple.
if the reason is because they're only spending time now with the people that are in their same relationship status phase of life,
Exactly.
that's the problem.
It is a problem because the reality is that you, like we were saying earlier, you are not a fully formed person because you got married. So there's that. And you can, and if you're willing to, you can learn and you should be able to learn from
Mm,
people in all different phases. Like, honestly, I recently have a couple of friends who are in their 70s and I'm 36. And I'm like, give me your wisdom. We are not in the same phase of life at all.
yeah. But it's like, who said that your friends have to be in exactly the same phase of life that you are?
People who are dumb.
Yeah, we need to correct those people.
Exactly. So I think that again, it's a sign of maturity that
Yeah.
you can be friends with people in all different stages of life, all different, you know, diversity of people, right? And I think if your friend group is not like that, then you should
Mm,
take stock of your friend group
yeah.
because you can learn from each other, you can grow with each other, you can like having like okay, I'll say from my experience, obviously like I'm very close with my mom, I'm very close with my family who are
Mhm.
all wonderful people. I am so beyond blessed. But I have also been blessed with other adults growing up, single, married, whatever, who have also been able to speak into my life, also been able
Yeah.
to be like an important figure in my life, especially growing up. And I think when you can have good, kind, safe people like around your kids, people who are
Mm,
not necessarily you as their parent, like look at all the wisdom you're collecting for your
yeah.
child, right?
It really does take a village.
It really does. And the same thing with your marriage, right? Like look at all of the wisdom, the joy, the fun, the community that you can build
Yeah.
with people who are different from you, right? You learn so much from them, they will learn from you. I mean, like I had a like, issue with like dating or whatever and I was like, I don't really know I have a problem and I need help. So I called friends who were married, a married couple, and I was like, this is the situation. What should I say? Because I was like, I could ask Chat GPT. That feels like it. So let me ask these other people, right? And that it was such a blessing to me because it was like people who I knew cared so much about me and
Yeah.
gave me good advice. And I, and I am able to do that with them too about other things, right? So anyway, all that to say, I think a lot of what this comes down to is being mature in your relationships and, like I said, not forgetting your friends and yeah, and just really caring about them as individuals and communicating with them so you can understand their needs and your needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, amen. Is there anything that we did not talk about that you wanted to be sure to mention?
That's a great question. I feel like I said this at the beginning, but I think it's again worth saying
Say it again.
is that marriage is a beautiful thing, but
Yeah.
marriage is not the only thing in your life. And singleness can be hard. Some people they are having a great time and that's okay. And singleness is also it's not a punishment in any
Mm,
way. Like honestly, I'm like Yeshua was single the whole time.
true. He did a lot of good things.
Yeah, he's God. Like that was the thing.
That was the great thing that he did. He was God.
So so I think about that and like look at all these people like the apostle Paul. I mean there's so many people in the
Yeah.
Bible, and I'm using the Bible because a lot of people who listen to this are believers, but also
Yeah.
in the church and in the believing world there's this idea that marriage is your highest calling.
Mm,
And I don't see any evidence of that. I think it's a great calling. I think it's a beautiful thing. I would like to be married personally. But I also think like I said, if you think of it that way, I think you'll be sorely disappointed.
yeah.
Like you were saying when you got married, it was like, we love Ivan. He's incredible. But also it's
It's such
like,
a gem. But also marriage is really hard.
it's really hard. Right.
Yeah. And also I think thinking about marriage as like the highest calling, the end goal, the you've made it finish line, it really then puts this unnecessary and honestly really harmful divide between people that are married and people that are not.
Yeah.
And I just don't think as believers and as community and as friends and people who are called to love each other and care for each other well, I just don't think that I think that's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know that there's been a lot of harmful messaging around singleness, around marriage, particularly aimed at women, but also men too. It's not
Yeah.
just with women. And I'm hoping that people can move toward healing on that. I know I've had to do that work for myself
Yeah.
because you just internalize a lot of messages and you're like, did I do something wrong? Like, why did that person
Is
get
it
married? That
me?
person's a
Am I the
weirdo.
problem?
Right. And then you're like, oh, no, this is life. Life is just what it is. So, I think that's important. The last thing, like I said, if you know somebody, set me up.
Set your girl up. She's a boss, babe. And especially if they're around the tri-state area, the New York City area, that would be ideal.
Yeah,
But any major metropolitan will do, and particularly Houston might be nice.
that's
I'm just trying to get Leah to live next door to me. That's all.
you know,
Imagine how fun that would be, Leah.
just casual. They have museums in Houston.
They do. They have museums in Houston. So if you know a guy in Houston, set your girl up. Oh, Leah, you are a delight as always. I love how I'm like, oh yeah, you're a delight to talk to as if we weren't like voice messaging for the last 3 days.
I know.
And often. Leah, thank you for being on. Pretty sure I can speak for everybody when I say thank you for all the insight and the wisdom. I think for singles and marrieds alike, this was very informative and insightful and really fun. A lot of fun.
I had
Yeah.
fun too. Thanks for asking me.
Yay! You're welcome. You can thank Ivan. It was his idea.
Yeah,
It
thanks,
was,
Evan.
thanks, Ivan. Who knows if he'll listen? But those of you that have been listening, thank you so much for listening. Honestly, it means so much. Again, if this episode encouraged you, if you enjoyed it, if you're like, ooh, I'm single, I'm gonna send this to my other single friend, or I'm gonna send this to my married friend, share it with them. And make sure that you are subscribing on YouTube and on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss what's next.
And come say hi over on Instagram at Be the Bigger Person Pod. Leah follows. So it's obviously what all the cool kids are doing.
Obviously.
Because I'd love to connect with you there. So I will see you around, and I can't wait to chat with you on the next episode of Be the Bigger Person podcast. Bye.
Bye.